everyone, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time joining, thank you. If you are a previous subscriber or you're coming from a previous video that you have viewed on my channel, welcome back. In today's video, I will be continuing on with the Day of the Dead Sugar Skull project. So in one video, I stitched out this design. And I talked about that I would be making these for a family member, and she has a tattoo that matches this one. So this one was kind of like a no-brainer to go ahead and do this one. And then the second one that she has no idea that I'm making for her is this one. This video should be posted by the time this one goes up, so you'll be able to see the stitching of this one. This design took several hours to stitch out. There was a lot of stitching that went on underneath, and then like the satin stitching kind of covered that. This pattern was almost 3 hours to stitch out with all the color changes. There were 14 different color changes in this one, and I can't remember right offhand how much were in this one. Let me look at my design. So you can see on this one that actually, I'm sorry, 14 different colors, but 13 different color changes. And if anybody is interested in this particular design, I bought it from Etsy, and it is by CarrieEllenDesigns, and it's C-A-R-R-I-E, Ellen Design. So there was this one, and you get 6 different sizes with this design when you purchase it, and currently, I believe it's on sale for under $5. And I'll tell you, if you buy this design, you're getting a very good value for that price, because 6 different sizes. This was size 3 of the design, and I believe it was 6.5 by 6 inches. And it goes clear up to, I believe, 8 by 8.5. So it's, I mean, it is well worth the money because of it is such an in-depth design, and it did take, like I said, almost 3 hours to stitch out. So there's that one. And then there was this one, and this one had 8 different colors, and it doesn't say how many different, it was just 8 different colors. I used less than that because I used my own color palette for it. And this one, I'm not sure, maybe by Easy Design. I will include in the description of each one that we're doing, I will include the seller that I purchased these from. So what we're going to do, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like long-winded intro here. So what we're going to do is I am going to make these into quilted pillows, and these are going to be the center of those pillows, or like a center motif of the pillows, I guess you could call. So what I'm going to do, as I will be setting this one aside, I am going to press this block a little bit, and we will square it up a little bit. I don't think I want it this large. I think I want to trim it just a bit. You can see the fabric I used is a white on white design. So what I will be using, there is a piece of black fabric here. It is a little bit hard to tell, and it kind of mimics that design. Let me show you here. Hold those up. Oh, that's a little hard to see. Let me So you can, the swirls, and they're very similar. So I will be using that black fabric to construct the front of the pillow. And what I have done is I have cut 10 2-inch strips, and in my head I'm picturing that I'm going to construct the pillow front as like a log cabin style block. And if you're not familiar with that, you're using strips and you're alternating the directions that they go in as you build up around the block. And I will show you that as we progress with it. But I'm going to go ahead and move these aside. I am going to plug in my little iron here. And I did make sure that I removed all my marks before I want to press this. You want to remove all your marks if you're using a water-soluble pen like I did. I used a Marks Begone to find my center to place my fabric in the embroidery hoop. And a Marks Begone, if you iron over it and not remove it, the iron will set that mark into the fabric, whatever kind of fabric you're using. And since I am using a white fabric, I really needed to make sure that I removed the marks first. So what I'm going to do is, let's see if my iron is on. Give that a second to heat up. And I know I'm going to move this because you're not supposed to have a warm iron over the top of your cutting mats because it can warp them. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to iron it from the back side first. And I'm just kind of pressing it, and I want to make sure that everything is nice and smooth. I did soak these for about 5 minutes in the sink before after letting them sit for about 5 minutes in that water to make sure that those it was like ice water, really cold water, to remove those marks. And then I let them dry for about 24 hours in the laundry room sitting flat. Okay, so there's very little ripple in the design or pucker, and I'm really happy with that. And that it's going to be on a pillow. It's going to be a slight ripple in it anyway because of the pillow filling. And I know I should just be pressing and not kind of... Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and turn the iron off and set it aside. And we're going to move this back here. And I have my 12.5-inch quilting ruler that I will be using to square it up. And I'm going to unplug this iron. Okay. And make sure it's out of the way and Luna can't touch it. Okay. So I want to square this up, and I think the fabric I used was about 10 inches by 12 inches. So I think what I want to do is I want to cut this down to 8 by 10. So I want to make sure that I at least have I think I want to make sure that I have at least 1.5 inches on each side of the design. And what are we at right now? We are about 2 inches off the edge of the design. So I'm trying to find the widest portion on each side, and I want to square that up. So, and then I'm going to try to position also at the same time. So this is, let me find my 1-inch side here so it's a little bit easier for you guys to see that. And let me move my light a bit out of the way. I know that's kind of a glare on the ruler. I'm sorry about that. So I want to find my 1.5 inch mark, and I want to find my 1.5 inch mark this side. And I'm going to try to, my widest portion is going to be the point of the leaf. So I'm trying to line that up with my 1.5 mark this way. And then I want to line my 1.5 mark up with the widest portion on this side as well. Okay. And I'm trying to make sure it's straight. Okay. So I'm going to just go ahead and trim that side, and I'm going to rotate, and I want to match. I'm going to put that, now that I know that I want this to, this is what works for me. This may not work for others, okay? So this is just what works for me. I know I want it to be 8 inches. So I made that first cut, and I know that from here to here is 1.5 inches. So, and I know I want my pillow to be 8 inches wide. So I'm going to put my 8 on this cut line, and I'm going to turn it this way first and move this aside a little. And I'm going to try, if I do this all correctly, okay, so it will end up being slightly larger than 8 inches because it is not going to be 1.5 inches on this side, but I know I want my skull to be centered, and so my measurements are going to be off just a little bit. I may have to take a little bit more off this side. I do not know. But I definitely, I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to see what my widest side over here is. Let's see, I'm the 1.5 inch again. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I have it straight on this side, and it is just slightly over 1.5 on this side, maybe a 1/8 of an inch, and that to me is not going to be highly noticeable. So I'm going to just kind of move it over just a hair past this mark, and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this side. And now to measure I know it looks off because this side and this side, but it is definitely so I'm going to line up, and the point of this leaf sticks out further than the edge of the skull. I hope I'm saying this so you guys can understand it. And it is, I've marked that I'm using that 1.5 inch mark there, and it's just right at the edge. And if I look over here and put it right at that leaf, and I'm a bit crooked, so let me go ahead and I'm going to, I know I'm 1.5 on this side, and what I want to do is I want to then do my 1.5 at the top with, and I know this is going to be my straight line here, and so I'm 1.5 all the way up on this side, and I want it to be the same on this side. So I'm just trying to square it up. You don't want to go with your fabric edge. I'm using the edge of the design to square it up. I hope I'm making sense on that. And like I said, this is what works for me. I again have my 1.5 on this side, and then my 1 inch increments are going up this way and this way. So now what I'm trying to line up is the top of this leaf, and keeping my 1.5 inch measurement here, I want to do my 1.5 measurement from the edge of that leaf, and I am about a 1/16 of an inch above that, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and trim. Okay, so my side looks okay over here. I'm going to rotate again and make sure that I'm at my 1.5 here. I'm at my 1.5. I just need to take a little bit off. Okay, and then to do the bottom portion, and again, I want to do my 1.5. I have my 1.5 for this leaf. I have my 1.5 at the bottom of this leaf, and I need to move this over just a hair so I'm on the mat. And I'm really hoping that this makes sense to you guys. It's just one of the ways that works for me to square something up. I may be doing it completely wrong, but it's what works for me. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so now I have a 1.5 inch border along each edge. So I should have, okay, so we're at 8.5 on this side, and I am almost at 11 on this side. I think I may be just a hair off. Yeah, I think I'm okay. This is about 10 3/4 up here, and by 8.5, and I'm okay with that measurement. I'm going to just leave it at that, and if I have to adjust something later as I'm sewing on my pieces, I will do that. What I'm going to do is I am going to start sewing my strips around, what is the end of this strip, in a log cabin fashion. And so I will start here, sew that, then I will trim, then I will sew that one, then trim, and then sew and keep going around until I get close to the 18.5 or the about 18.5 inch size that I want. And I'm going to pause the video, adjust some things on the machine, and I will be right back. Okay, so I changed a few things on my machine. I have taken off my dynamic spring foot, and this is the foot that I use for the embroidery or free motion quilting or anything like that. So I took that off, I'm gonna put that aside. And I have purchased a quarter-inch quilting foot for my FAF machine. It did not come with one, but you can kind of see that little, can you see that little guide on there? And that just lets me get my accurate quarter-inch seam when I'm doing my quilt piecing. And I'm going to snap this onto my machine. And I really love how easy it is to attach the feet on the FAF machine. So what I have done also is you can kind of see my little thread here. I have went ahead and threaded the machine. I'm going to be using black thread. I'm just going to be using my embroidery thread. Some people really like doing quilt piecing with it, and I like it as well because it's nice and strong thread. So I have went ahead and put my black thread in the bobbin, threaded the top, and what I'm going to do now is I am going to adjust the camera, and I'm just going to set it down here off to the side and have it on a tripod to the left of me. And that way you can kind of see me piecing and hopefully not get me into too much of the video, because it's not about me, it's about our project. So give me just a moment to adjust the camera and I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see I have a different camera angle than what we are used to seeing in my videos. And you can see little Luna up here at the top. I've mentioned in videos before that I have a little perch for her up there so she can be with me and up out of the way. Sometimes she likes to sit back here up on the embroidery unit, and I don't like her doing that because if you're familiar with my videos, I did have to replace the embroidery unit because the previous owner damaged it, and when I went to go attach it to the machine one day and calibrate it, it broke. So, okay. So what we're going to do is I was talking about that I'm going to construct these blocks in the log cabin method. And this is what that looks like. And you can see where the number 1 is. That's going to be the skull portion. Then the first strip is going to be number 2. Then number 3, 4, 5 is up to this side, 6 across the top, 7. So basically we're going to be constructing our strips in a clockwise motion. Okay, so there we go. And I had thought I was filming and I had started to sew the first block on. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I pressed record and did not. So hopefully we are good. What I did is I did the first strip across the top, and with every strip you're going to want to press your seam towards the strip, and then you're going to flip it over and square it up. So I have went ahead, I'm going to Make sure I get this good. I'm going to trim off that portion. And then I'm going to do it, flip it over and do it on this portion as well. I don't have that laying flat. You want to make sure your piece is laying flat. Hope y'all can see that okay. And I am a little kind of congested, but in my workspace here, I'm trying to get everything in our shot. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you're going to take your strip again, and now we're going to do the next, throw that little piece away, and we're going to sew down this side. And I leave a little tail, kind of just maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch at each end, just so the machine has something to grasp onto. And I will be using my clips for the first couple pieces here because I did not trim away the stabilizer on this portion. It's just going to be a quilted top, and that's just going to kind of keep that area from puckering. I'm trying to keep everything here in the shot and without getting my big old head in the way. Okay, so I'm going to just do that one piece, that one clip, and we're going to put it back up under the machine. And since I am using my FAF machine, it sometimes takes me a little bit to get used to it again because I'm not used to the foot lowering by itself, and I get a little nervous. So I'm going to just lower my foot myself until I kind of get in the groove, if you know what I mean. Okay. And I am using my 1/4 inch seam guide, my foot with the seam guide on it. If any of you missed me saying that earlier. And that just helps me get my accurate seam every time. And I'm still not used to the foot pressure on here. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. And I'm going to sew right off the end. Cut my thread. And then we are going to press our seam open again. And you can see here where I did leave that little bit just so I have that extra. And I think with each piece that each strip that I'm sewing, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get, at least for these first couple ones, I am going to be able to get the top and at least the bottom and the top, the bottom, and one side out of one strip. So that is our second piece. I'm going to go ahead and trim that up again. And I'm sorry, I've got so much stuff sitting around. So let's square that up again. I'm really trying to keep myself out of the shot. It's about the project, not about me. And there's that one. And I'm going to trim the top as well. Okay. So I'm going to continue sewing all the way around, and when I get a couple more strips done, I will be back. Okay, so I have the first 4 pieces sewn on. We did the top portion down the right side, across the bottom, and up the left side of the block. And so far, that is where we're at. And you can see some little bit of rippling in it. But when it's in the pillow, it's not going to make much of a difference. I will be quilting this as well. And I'm going to just do straight line quilting in the ditch. And we will get to that portion. I'm going to go ahead and continue sewing on the strips. And right now I am at almost 12 inches across the top. And I want to get as close to 18 inches as possible. If I'm, depending on the strips, if I'm close to 18, I will stop at whatever side gets me that portion or that size. I hope that makes sense. I'll explain a little bit more as I get further into it. So, so far, the height is at 14. So I would just need 2 more strips across the top to get close to 18. And for the sides, about 3 more. So we'll see how close I can get to 18 inches on each side. I'm going to go ahead and continue piecing off camera. And you can see Luna is still up here on the side. See her up there. Okay, so we're going to continue, and I will be back in a few moments. Okay, so I have 2 strips sewn on each side. So we started here at the top, worked down the right side, across the bottom, back up the left, across the top, down the right again. And this is what it is looking like so far. My measurements are at, so far we are 14.5 by 17. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do 1 more strip all the way around. And that way it will be in between actually 18 to 20 inches, which is a common size for throw pillows. And it'll be kind of like right in between those is what I'm thinking. And with the seam allowance, when I assemble the top to the back portion of the pillow, it'll kind of make it just a little smaller. So instead of being smaller than 18 inches, it will be slightly larger with the seam allowance, but then still slightly smaller than a 20-inch throw pillow. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue doing the final strips, 1 more all the way around. And to me, it is looking a little bit off center, but that is okay because I didn't want to, how can I describe it? I could have done like 1 inch here and 1 inch here, and maybe it would have looked a little bit better. But I'm okay. I'm okay with it. It's 1.5 inches from each side, from the top, from the bottom. This corner down here is making it look a little bit off center. But it's okay. I could probably embroider something else down here on this corner, maybe another flower or something like that. But to find the right one that would work with this, I'm not going to worry about it. I can do maybe some like decorative stitching here, and then just kind of like right here to kind of distract from that a little bit, and I may do that. If I don't like the way it looks, I can always pick those stitches out. I've got some leaf looking stitches in my machine, and I'm kind of like looking at what would be the best one to use. I may just do some kind of like star or some squiggle or something just to kind of distract from this spot being so empty. We'll see what happens as we progress. I'm going to go ahead and continue, like I said, with one more strip all the way around it, and I'll be right back. Okay, my friends, I have gotten all of the borders or the strips sewn around the sides. I ended up getting 3 around each side, and like I was talking, I did, let me get a little pointer here. We did it like a log cabin block, and we did our first piece across the top, down the side, across the bottom, up the left side, and continued clockwise, so back across the top, down the side, and around, until I got 3 strips around each side. And you can see I put the larger cutting mat back underneath so you can see the finished size. And I had used 2-inch strips. I cut them the length of the fabric. I ended up cutting, I did 10 strips because I was not sure how many I'd need, and I wanted to have all of them cut for this pillow and the second pillow. That way I wouldn't have to go back and cut more strips. And it looks like each one is going to take 5 strips. So I did have some left over, and I will be able to use these when I start the second pillow. But you can see that it finished just about 18 inches on one side. And if I pull this down a little, to 20 inches high. So almost 18 by 20. It's 17 and a half by 20. I'm really happy with that size. In the next video, I am going to try to incorporate some type of fancy stitch down here in this corner. I am going to use my stitch editor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create a stitch using an existing stitch in the FAF Creative 4.0 machine. I'm going to play a little bit off camera with that first so I get it just how I want it, and then I will come back and I will show you what I did in another video. But today, this is the end of the video for now. I will do the same thing to the second pillow, and this is our second one. I will trim that down to relatively the same size. I may just leave, I'm not sure if I'll leave an inch on each side or 1.5 inches like I did on this one. But I want to kind of the pillows to kind of finish to the same size. If they're a little bit different, that's okay because they are custom pillows. But if you guys have any questions, please comment down below. If you have any questions, you can always email me at jsnc18@gmail.com. And that's there. And we will all see you in the next video. We'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.